What's good, everyone? It's your boy RTR Main, and we back with another episode. So today I just want to discuss something that is really bothering me because it's something that we've all been hearing for the past few years, right? Probably say past several years, right? And it is about SEC bias. Now, I'm someone who has been kind of fighting against the SEC bias narratives. Not in the sense that I'm not saying that it's just all false. There's none of it is around. I wouldn't say that. I think there's a program bias more, and that it just happens that they're more blue blood or big time programs. For example, like Ohio State will get the same benefit, Michigan, maybe Oregon, USC, you name it. So I'm gonna jump right into it. So the reason why I am so flustered is for this AP poll right here. And starting off with the first thing is I'm going through the reactions. I'm going on X, I'm going on forums, I'm going on Reddit, trying to see what people's reactions are to the latest AP poll. And the biggest one that people are really frustrated with this week, which by the way, good job on the pay people for making his corrections. I think it's clear and evident that they hear what we say, and they are at least correcting some of the things, like LSU dropping below Miami. Uh, who else? Iowa State dropped two slots, so that's good. And also even Bama. Bama's win over Wisconsin's not looking as impressive. Now that we saw how Wisconsin was pretty much, it wasn't a close game versus Maryland. Whether they were dominated or not, I can't comment, but it wasn't a close game. Uh, but the main thing that people were pissed off at the AP poll, and rightfully so, is Illinois still being ranked after being the top 15 spots. But what's making me upset is no one here is talking about how Illinois has any sort of biases or because they're Big Ten, they get some special treatment. No, it's just, oh, AP polls don't know what they're talking about. The voters don't know what they're talking about. They they should not be keeping Illinois in. Whereas when it came to Bama losing to Florida State, they didn't drop all the way out. And I was hearing the SEC bias narratives coming out. And one thing I mentioned was it's very hard because the thing with the AP poll voters is they don't just re-rank their teams. It's kind of a lazy way of their ranking systems where they just look how they played against some team and then they decide how much they should fall or go up. Correct? So, and I think that just this right here just very absolutely proves my point right. And the thing is, because it's Illinois, no one is talking about it. Sure, you can say Florida State wasn't. They didn't. Illinois didn't lose to a team as Florida State. I mean, Florida State is now ranked high, but it also matters where they were ranked at the time. Florida State was unranked. However, it's not like they were seen as to be a bad team again. They still had receiving votes. I believe with their receiving votes, they were still seen as like a 35th or 40th best team, like kind of on the lower end of the spectrum. Regardless, there was still at least a little bit of hype coming into the season for Florida State. And while they weren't number 19 Indiana, and Bama kind of got did get handled on both sides of the lane. The scrimmage definitely got dominated. It wasn't near the obliteration that Illinois took when they played Indiana. So that's what I really want to put into question is why does when SEC teams get ranked or when SEC teams do this and come in, why do we have to bear a lot of hate, a lot of bias narratives? Why is there's all this anti-SEC propaganda when it happens to other schools? So I'm gonna even take it a step further. I don't know why TCU and BYU is ranked. I think BYU was ranked because, well, I can kind of see a little bit with BYU because they were essentially the 26th team. It's coming into preseason, and teams just kept jumping them. Teams kept jumping them, and now the AP poll voters will say, "Hey, you're still ranked. We'll move you up." At least that is consistent with what they do. Now, I don't agree with that, but it's there. TCU, on the other hand, definitely had some votes coming in. It's not like they made some drastic jump, but why are they ranked in the top 25 after beating SMU? Now, I don't think SMU is a bad team per se, but SMU wasn't ranked when they played. Whereas, look at these two teams. That's been a huge talk. Is Auburn and Mississippi State. Auburn beat Baylor, and Mississippi State beat Arizona State. How come both of these teams are not in the top 25? I don't understand. Or at least one of these teams. It's one thing if it was just one of these teams, then I'm completely fine about it, right? But I don't see how, especially Mississippi State, still being unranked, and it also goes to how much the preseason expectations play such a big factor. Because Mississippi State was nowhere close to getting any receiving votes, and even after beating Arizona State, they still were ranked below Arizona State, which was the ridiculous part until the AP poll was like, okay, we gotta correct this. This shouldn't be happening. But yeah, I don't understand how that's the case. And then South Florida, I don't even need to explain why. Everyone should be aware that Group of Five teams just don't get the same amount of benefit that Power Five teams get. Obviously, South Florida, they beat Florida, who was also beat by both Miami and who else? Who else beat Florida? Oh, why am I forgetting it now? LSU. Yeah. So that win doesn't look as good. They still beat a Boise State team who, while they may not be quite where they were, they're still looking to be a good team. What's his name? Kevin Riley or Riley, the running back. It has ran for like 120 and 170 yards in the past 2 weeks. He is balling out. It's clear that it's not just. I mean, Aston Genty was a beast in of himself, but they obviously have a system to get the running game going. Why it didn't happen against South Florida? Well, South Florida, that's a top 25 defense. I can say that right there. But regardless, I just do not see how, looking at the resumes, because TCU beat SMU, who lost to Baylor, and Auburn beat Baylor, yet Auburn yet Auburn is still below them. I get from the standpoint that they took a loss, but they lost on the road in a one-score game to the number 17, or at the time the number 11 team. I think they should be getting a little more a little more probably, but in all honesty, that's just, I think there's a solid argument. If Auburn, if Auburn stayed out of the top 25 and Mississippi State was in the top 25, I wouldn't be talking about this I, because as much as I completely agree with Auburn fans, on the flip side is, would you have been happy if they remained at 25 versus now? Because in reality, what's the biggest difference between 25th and 26th? Obviously, there is implications in terms of how many viewers it draws when you have a number next to your team. That could also help with some viewership or whatnot. Or I don't know. I think what's more egregious is Mississippi State. Auburn's big win. Well, Auburn, while also being a one-loss team, has a win over Baylor. Baylor, who lost to the team that Mississippi State beat, which is kind of out there now. I know Auburn's victory wasn't as close as Mississippi State's, but regardless, Auburn has one loss. And in actuality, at this point in the season, it's not bad that Auburn's outside the top 25. It's just in the context of this and just making this argument, and where if this was happening with other conferences, let's say we flip the script, where an SEC team creeps in the top 25 and over some undefeated Big 12 or Big 10 or whatever team, then we would be hearing so much SEC bias narratives, and it frustrates me. And going back to the Illinois point, last year, in I think it was week 6, Missouri was beat 41-10 by Texas A&M, and they didn't fall out of the top 25, even though they were still in the top 10. They lost by a lesser margin to around the same ranked team. I think Texas A&M was around 19, like Indiana, and there was so much vitriol and so much anger about Missouri Missouri only being there to boost the SEC, to boost Alabama when they go play. And yeah, it's a ridiculous narrative in the terms of the AP. I do think there are plenty of AP voters that will bias the SEC, but there's also plenty of AP voters that are biased to the Big Ten and the ACC, because the AP poll voters they're very focused on their school and their region. A lot of them are beat writers and very focused on their own school. And then the weird thing is, I haven't really done like a full in-depth thing, like analyzing all the voters' top 25 rankings, but it'll be weird stuff where I think like the guy from Syracuse was overranking a ton of SEC teams, whereas one SEC guy was underranking a lot of SEC teams and propping up, I don't know, Big Ten teams. I'm not too sure. I'd have to go. If you guys want, I can give more an in-depth analysis into that. But regardless, this is just something that I at least wanted to document real quick, and something that I'm probably going to come back to later this season, because I know the SEC narrative is going to come. It's somehow going to come, and people for some reason, when Alabama was left out, it was just seemed like a no-brainer. Alabama should have been left off. When in reality, I think, if I truly believe, if it was another team, then then people would not be having that kind of vitriol against it. The point I made last year is, if Haynes King didn't get injured and they won their games against, I think it was, he didn't play against Notre Dame and Virginia. So imagine he had those wins, but they were still a 3-loss team. We losses to Syracuse, Georgia, and I forget the other loss. I believe it was Louisville. Are you going to sit there and tell me that Georgia Tech should have been out of the playoffs, even over SMU? The strength of schedule is a massive difference. Even in the same conference, I'm pretty sure Georgia Tech's schedule was ranked even higher than South Carolina and Alabama's. Their strength of schedule was like top 12 or something at the end of the season. So that was one thing, and I feel like if some scenario is going to happen to where the short-term memory of the college football fans are going to come up, and they're going to completely forget that they didn't give Alabama the same grace, but then a team like Georgia Tech, for example, will get that grace, or whoever plays a very difficult schedule in another conference and has 3 losses versus a 1 or 2 loss team like we're playing like a last year's SMU schedule or whatnot. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and peace.